Good evening. We interrupt this broadcast with breaking news. We are receiving confirmed reports of a major incident unfolding downtown. Breaking tonight, Canada just won massive Gulf investment for a northern pipeline that bypasses the United States. Breaking tonight, Mark Carney just landed in the United Arab Emirates. And what happened next shocked every diplomatic observer watching. The UAE's royal family didn't offer standard protocol. They didn't schedule routine meetings. They rolled out a reception reserved for leaders whose decisions reshaped global markets. Carney wasn't greeted like a prime minister on a diplomatic tour. He was received like a man who controls access to opportunities the UAE has been waiting years to find. And in private halls, away from cameras, away from Trump's Twitter threats, away from Ottawa's cautious bureaucrats, the royals delivered a message that could redefine Canada's next decade. Bring us your mega projects. We will finance them, and we will help you build a Canada that Donald Trump cannot touch. Tonight, we're breaking down what actually happened in those UAE palaces and why this moment marks the beginning of Canada's economic independence. Dear viewers, the first signal came before Carney even stepped off the plane. Abu Dhabi, November 18th, 2025. The UAE doesn't waste time on symbolic visits. When their sovereign wealth funds, controlling over $3 trillion, identify a strategic opportunity, they move with precision. And Carney's arrival triggered something diplomats noticed immediately. Senior royal advisors, direct meetings with fund managers, investment discussions scheduled before cultural events. Translation: the UAE sees Carney as someone who finally brings them what they've been searching for, real projects worth backing. Let me show you exactly what changed. For years, Canada offered the UAE nothing substantial. Timid governments shelved infrastructure plans. Energy projects died in committee. Pipeline proposals collapsed under political pressure. The UAE watched unimpressed as Canada squandered its resource advantage. But Carney arrived with something the royals respect above everything else: executable plans, large-scale energy infrastructure, export corridors that match UAE investment appetite, strategic projects that transform economies, not token partnerships that generate press releases. And when Carney laid out Canada's new direction, the response was immediate. CTV's Scott Reed captured the significance perfectly during morning coverage. The United Arab Emirates is the land of sovereign wealth funds, he explained. We're talking trillions of dollars they invest in large-scale projects, energy, infrastructure, the kinds of projects Mark Carney has championed since becoming Prime Minister. That's his pitch. You have capital seeking opportunities. You haven't found them in Canada before. You will find them now. Translation: Carney just told the world's most selective investors that Canada is finally open for serious business. But here's what Reed's analysis couldn't reveal in that moment. What happened behind closed doors, the conversations that weren't broadcast, the strategic alignment forming in real time between Canadian ambition and UAE capital. The royals understand geopolitics better than almost anyone operating today. They see patterns before markets react. They recognize inflection points while competitors hesitate. And right now, they're watching something extraordinary unfold in North America. The United States, historically Canada's guaranteed trading partner, is becoming unpredictable under Trump. Tariff threats, annexation rhetoric, trade uncertainty that makes long-term investment planning nearly impossible. The UAE sees opportunity in that chaos. Let me be specific about what they proposed. November 19th morning session, a pipeline corridor extending to British Columbia's northern coast emerged as the centerpiece discussion. This isn't a modest expansion. This is a generational infrastructure build requiring tens of billions in stable financing, the kind of project that rewrites national export capacity, the kind of partnership that creates permanent shifts in global energy markets. Reed identified this immediately during his broadcast analysis. Twin that with news about a major pipeline, he noted possibly a memorandum of understanding between the federal government, British Columbia, and Alberta. A Project E of the North Shore of British Columbia. That's exactly what UAE's sovereign wealth funds would look at hungrily and say we could put investment capital behind that translation. If Carney secures this partnership, Canada gains energy export infrastructure that bypasses American ports entirely. Now watch how this changes Canada's strategic position. A northern pipeline corridor means Canada can ship energy directly to Asian markets. No American intermediaries, no U.S. port dependencies, no Trump leverage over Canadian export capacity. The UAE understands this immediately because they've built their entire economy on exactly this kind of strategic infrastructure. They know what it means when a resource-rich nation secures independent export routes. And it means freedom, real economic freedom. And that's precisely what Trump fears most. But beyond the pipeline discussion, something even more significant emerged during Carney's UAE visit: the formation of a financial architecture that operates independently of American volatility. Reid described it as diversifying sources of income and relationships. So Canada isn't so dependent on the United States, which has proven less reliable than once imagined. That's diplomatic language for what's actually happening. Canada is building an economic shield, a network of sovereign wealth partnerships, Asian trade relationships, and European infrastructure agreements that collectively reduce American leverage over Canadian decision-making. The UAE isn't just one piece of this strategy. They're the financial foundation that makes the entire structure possible. November 19th afternoon discussions, Carney reportedly presented a comprehensive investment framework, not requests for single projects, but a roadmap for sustained UAE participation in Canadian infrastructure development over the next decade: energy corridors, transportation networks, technology hubs, the kind of partnership that creates permanent economic ties between nations. And according to sources familiar with the negotiations, the UAE's response exceeded expectations. Reid hinted at this during his morning analysis. I think we might see actual agreements signed. He suggested handshakes like what we saw in Malaysia, where a deal was concluded, an investment pact signed, maybe details about specific projects, more than just happy handshakes and smiles. He was being conservative. The reality appears more substantial. Insiders suggest Carney may leave the UAE with a signed investment commitment, UAE capital allocated specifically for Canadian infrastructure. A memorandum establishing joint development frameworks and preliminary agreements on the Northern Pipeline corridor that environmental groups will immediately challenge but can't actually stop because federal jurisdiction overrides provincial objections when national economic security is at stake. This is how Carney operates: quiet preparation, strategic relationship building, then decisive execution when all pieces align. His critics love mocking his travel schedule, all those international trips, all that diplomatic activity. They call it photo-op politics. They claim he's avoiding domestic challenges. They're missing the entire strategic picture. Those trips built relationships, established trust, created the foundation for moments exactly like this UAE visit. Carney wasn't searching for investment partners. He was assembling them nation by nation, meeting by meeting, building a coalition of countries ready to back Canada's independence from American economic dominance. The UAE visit represents the moment that strategy pays off. Think about what Carney's accomplished in less than a year as Prime Minister. He secured enhanced trade access with Malaysia. He strengthened technology partnerships with Japan. He expanded energy cooperation with European nations. He positioned Canada as the bridge between Asian markets and North American resources. And now he's landing UAE sovereign wealth commitments for infrastructure projects previous governments couldn't even get approved. This isn't luck, this is execution. And Trump, watching from Mar-a-Lago, understands exactly what's happening. Canada is slipping from American economic control. The tariff threats that once guaranteed Canadian compliance now push Ottawa toward alternative partners. The annexation rhetoric that was supposed to demonstrate American dominance instead reveals American desperation. Translation: Trump's strategy backfired completely. But here's the detail most coverage misses. The UAE doesn't make commitments like this for economic returns alone. Their sovereign wealth funds can find profitable investments anywhere. They're backing Carney because they see geopolitical value in strengthening Canada as a counterweight to American unpredictability. A Canada financially supported by UAE capital, trading extensively with Asia, exporting energy through independent corridors, building infrastructure that creates economic resilience against U.S. pressure. That Canada becomes a stabilizing force in North America, a reliable partner when American policy swings wildly with each administration change. The UAE values stability. They're investing in creating it. This is sophisticated geopolitical strategy, operating at the highest level. In Carney, former Bank of England governor, former Bank of Canada governor, understands exactly how this game is played. He's not just securing investment. He's repositioning Canada's entire role in global economic architecture. November 20th, Carney's departure from Abu Dhabi. The official statements will be diplomatic, productive discussions, strengthened relationships, mutual commitment to partnership, standard language that reveals nothing specific. But watch what happens over the next 60 days. Watch for announcements about Northern Pipeline environmental reviews suddenly accelerating. Watch for investment commitments appearing in federal infrastructure budgets. Watch for UAE Sovereign Wealth Fund representatives appearing at Canadian development conferences. That's when you'll know this trip delivered exactly what Carney needed. And if you're someone who recognizes patterns before markets react, who sees strategic moves while competitors focus on headlines, who understands that Canada's independence is being built right now through exactly these kinds of partnerships, then you already know why this matters. Carney isn't fighting Trump directly. He's making Trump irrelevant. Every UAE investment commitment is another reduction in American leverage. Every alternative trade relationship is another escape route from U.S. economic pressure. Every infrastructure project financed by non-American capital is another piece of independence locked in place. This is how middle powers become strategic powers, not through military confrontation, not through diplomatic conflict, through economic architecture that creates options, through relationships that provide alternatives, through infrastructure that enables independence. The UAE royals understand this perfectly. That's why they welcomed Carney the way they did. They're not backing a Canadian Prime Minister. They're backing a strategy that creates a more balanced North America, a strategy that reduces volatility in global markets, a strategy that makes Canada a genuine alternative to American unpredictability. And if that strategy succeeds, if Carney actually pulls this off, if Canada emerges from this decade economically independent and strategically flexible, historians will look back at this November 2025 UAE visit as the moment everything changed, the moment Canada stopped asking permission and started building alternatives, the moment Trump's leverage collapsed because Carney found better partners, the moment the UAE's sovereign wealth became the financial engine behind Canada's transformation. Make sure to leave a comment and subscribe, where we show you the moves before they make headlines.